Guys, what's going on? It's Willie here, and today I have another how-to Canon tutorial. Now this is episode number 5, and we will be going over the essentials of canoning and alignment. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and use my 100 stacker as an example for this. So first thing on the list I want to go over, there's a few things I want to go over. Boosters. What boosters do, some may consider them compressors, but what they do, it basically compresses rows of entities into one block. So right here we have the sand compressor, right here we have the hammer, and right here we have the power compressor. So what these do, this one's the biggest out of all of them, and this one isn't even that big. This one can hit 10 entities into one block. Right now it's only at 8. But this one right here, these one spotted ones right here, can only hit 6. So right here, this is 6 entity rows right here, and then it all gets hit right into this piston pushes it in. Same thing with the sand, only it's 5, and this is a little bit more, just so it can hit all of these all the way over here. So that is how the boosters work, and what they do, they just make the cannon a lot more efficient and effective. So those, you definitely want to have good boosters. The next thing on the list is the power. Your cannon's going to go nowhere without the power, because what it does, all this TNT gets into one block. That's why it's so important it gets into one block for efficiency. And it hits it farther. The more TNT you have in the power, the farther it goes, obviously, because that's what the power is. And that's how it works. So obviously, as I just said, the farther you want to go, just go ahead and add more power, but make sure it's all getting compressed into one block, because if you're having issues with it not going far enough, that may be your issue. So the next thing on the list is the sand comp. What the sand comp does, it usually takes the longest to get all the sand into one block. The highest sand I would recommend on in one web is probably about 20. I think the max is 22. I only play around with 20 because after that stuff starts to stop working. And yeah, you want to make sure that you have a distance of 40 ticks in between this booster and when these pistons trigger. So that's always nice to know. This circuit right here is pretty weird. I came up with it. It works well. It works as like monostable and 10 repeater. So what it does is basically these pistons retract, all the sand falls into these cobwebs, and then these cobwebs push out right as this booster goes off. And as triangles work, that's a whole different tutorial, by the way. Triangle just means how the TNT renders. So how entities render, rather. So basically what the sand's going to do is it's going to come out, it's going to hit this guider, it's going to come over here, and then it's going to get shot out one block below the hammer. What the hammer does is it actually makes the sand entities turn back into regular block form and actually make a sand stack. And how it works is like order of entities, that's how it stacks like 100, but like I said, that's a different tutorial. Basically what it does is one block, exactly one block, on top of the sand stack, and so it just comes in here, one block on top, and hammers it down. Just like how we have in this little example right here. Here's how it looks on the cannon, shoots at the wall, this is how it'll look, the sand and the hammer. So sometimes there are slabs at the bottom of your base, so how you take care of those is with a slab bust. And what the slab bust does, if you aren't familiar with the tunneling effect, it's basically 2 TNT blowing up at basically the same time, but the one TNT explosion basically lengthens out the other TNT explosion, causing for a tunnel. So that's what we do vertically here. The hammer blows up, and like very, very soon after, using a comparator, you can actually get just a little bit of delay there. The slab bust actually blows up, so it's blowing up on its way down, and it actually just tunnels out the slabs for your sand to actually sand stack. So that's one of the crucial parts right there of rating if a base actually has like cobweb walls. That's a different story, but if it has slabs, yes, then you will be able to get right through there. So the next thing on the list is redstone. If you don't have efficient redstone, it could cost you just a second every shot, or it could cost you the cannon, because if your redstone is wrong, your cannon's probably gonna blow up unless you have the whole entire thing watered. So definitely having redstone in the proper place, in the proper efficient place, is the way to go. First thing that gets powered by the redstone almost always are the boosters, maybe letting the sand fall into the cobwebs like I have here. But anyway, if you follow this button, it goes to booster, right here, goes to booster, and then right here goes to booster, and then the sand compression. So basically you just want your booster to go off, and then probably your power, then your hammer, and then your slab bust, just so everything's basically in order. It's just how everything's going to end up. And right here we also have another compressor. This is actually piston compressors. It just like kind of bumps one block of entities or one row of entities over a little bit. And yeah, that's how it gets right there. It just gets pushed. Same thing with the hammer. That's how the hammer gets put into the barrel, gets pushed. But yeah, redstone is definitely important. This circuit right here, weird. But right here is a 10 repeater, or they call it a 10 repeater, but it's actually 10 repeaters and 2 ticks. That's just how it works out, so I don't really mess around with it. But yeah, next important thing is the guiders. If you don't have guiders, your cannon isn't going to stack, unless it's an Order of Entities fusion stacker or just a regular fusion stacker. Basically what it does, hammer on top of sand and the slab bus, just so it goes downwards. That's pretty simple. But a lot of cannons, a lot of cannoners do go through filters. They actually replace the guider with slabs. So it's 50% of the guider, so it's 50% in the hammer, 50% out. So you can assume that you're going to get 50% of the sand stack done. That's pretty simple math right there. Just nothing too fancy right there. So that is basically it, except for aligners. Now that's one of the big things in this episode. If you don't have aligners on your cannon, it could be done. For the longest time I had no clue what an aligner was, so that's why I decided to go ahead and make this tutorial on them. So basically what an aligner does, it keeps everything on the same side of the block. Now what you may be thinking is every block is one full block. That is correct, except for prime TNT. It's actually like 0.98 of a block, so that means it can either be aligned to this side or this side, the left or the right. Pistons, generally they hit it over a little bit, so they don't just push it right centered in the block. They actually give it like a little bit of force, so it'll actually be aligned to this side of the wall. So this is aligned to the left, hammer's aligned to the left, keep that in mind. This actually just shoots it all over, so it's going to get stopped at this wall. So this is aligned to the left also. Same thing with this piston, gives it a little bit of force, so it's aligned to the left. So the only thing still centered right here would be the power, and that's where issues come in. If you don't have an aligner like I do right here, this is actually a TNT aligner. There are piston aligners and TNT aligners. If you don't have an aligner, stuff could go bad really quickly for when you're shooting east to west on the x-axis. Right here I'm shooting north to south, so I really wouldn't have problems if I were to disable that. I'll just go ahead and fire. Oh, whoops. Yeah, I wouldn't have problems with it because I'm shooting north to south. So definitely shoot north to south if you can, but if you can't, and you just shoot south to, or not south to west, east to west, it'll still work out just fine. See, it's stacked if you have aligners. So right here, this is how basically it would hit the wall. The sand would be like a little aligned over to the left or a little aligned to the right, and the hammer would stay centered where you aligned it, and it would just hammer down, and it would just really screw stuff up. It has stuff to do with triangles, like I said, not in this tutorial. But here's a basic example of what it does. It's like mini boosters to a degree. So basically, pretend this is your power, and pretend this is just really blown up. It would get hit over to this side, just like so. So it's pretty simple. So right here, we just have TNT aligner, not TNT, piston aligners, just pushing it in. It'll shoot right through the hole just fine. So that is it for the aligners. Not having your TNT aligned to the same side is and can be a good thing. Like right here, this is actually a cannon. I'm gonna try not to show you guys. It's actually a 255 reverse lefty. I don't know if I'm gonna release it yet, but basically what it does is it has the lefty or the reverse power aligned to the right, but the hammer and everything else aligned to the left. And it uses triangles, so it could be complicated. Basically, it just hits it up all the way up to this backboard right here, and since it's aligned, the power's aligned to the right, it's naturally going to hit it up at an angle. But because of triangles, it goes up and then left or right. So it hits this, gets stopped, and then goes to the left, and that's how it goes through all these walls. So that is considered triangle tech. So the simple things can actually make pretty solid base rating cannons. but it can also screw up your cannon too. So to recap, what we went over: boosters, important. They make everything more efficient. We also went over, let me look at this list. We went over the power, makes everything shoot farther. Went over the sand comp. It's important that you make sure everything is efficient so nothing gets clogged and nothing blows up. Hammer, sand, and power, those are the three main things. Hammer is what actually makes the sand stack. Slab bust is what busts the slabs. And this is how you bust in one shot, by the way. If I didn't already mention that, just a comparator instead of repeater. The redstone, if you don't have good redstone wiring, chances are, as you move to server, I have noticed this, some methods of redstone wiring do not work on other servers. I know, it's weird, but your cannon could blow up because in the liner it may not be powered, so you gotta watch your redstone. Just keep it nice and simple, but not to a degree that's bad. Guiders, that's how everything works. Just basically hammers down the sand. That's the one thing you gotta know about guiders, and it keeps everything aligned. But if you were to have guiders for a reverse, this would go off first, hitting the hammer up. That's just guiders. That's just how they work. One thing on top of the other. And then aligners, it keeps it aligned to the left or right. Pretend this is one block right here. Right inside this ring I just made. This is your TNT. It can be aligned, since it's 0.98 by 0.98, it can be aligned to any of these: center, all of this, center back, center whatever. But basically, you want everything to align to the same side if you're cannoning. That is, unless you're using some weird triangle tech or whatever. But for the majority of you guys that are just learning how to cannon and you've stumbled across my tutorial, you really just want to keep everything aligned to the right side or the left side. Don't mess around with stuff in between. You see, if you're shooting north to south, it usually doesn't matter. I would still put an aligner on just in case. But, yeah, you want to align everything to one side, or else stuff will start sliding all over the place, and you might have an issue, and it could cost you the raid if you don't know what you're doing. So, biggest thing, make sure everything is aligned to the left or right, and that's basically it for this tutorial. I know, kind of a simpler tutorial, probably a more in-depth tutorial coming out next week. But if you guys did enjoy, please be sure to leave a like. If you'd like to see more content, make sure you subscribe. Leave a comment on what you want to see. I actually made this whole tutorial up about what you guys commented. So make sure you leave a comment. I read them all. I try to reply if anyone asks questions. But make sure you just give me some feedback. I want to know what I can do better for you guys. So anyway, that's it. Have a nice day.